Alright, MrSotko here, and welcome back to another Company Heroes 2 replay cast, and today it is a 1 vs 1 on Crossing in the Woods between our blue U.S. Forces player, Aimstrong, who is the number 3 Wehrmacht player in 1 vs 1 currently, that is his highest rank, and down south we have our red Wehrmacht player, Jesulin, who is the number 2 Soviet player. And again, it is Crossing in the Woods, so we have our victory points going straight across the center of the map. Our fuel points are on the far left and far right side of the map, and our munitions points, as usual, are right next to the center victory point in the center of the map. And we have Pioneers moving out to the first territory point, and Riflemen now moving out to the first territory point, and rear echelons moving over to the left side territory point. So we have 2 Riflemen coming out for the U.S. Forces. And we have the MG42 as the first unit for the Wehrmacht and a Grenadier to follow. Now going to the first territory point here. We'll see if he can set this up in time to stop his U.S. Forces opponent from taking the left side victory point or the fuel point here. So he already has it set up here, just in case any troops move too close into the victory point here at the same time taking the territory point. Now going to pick that up and move that a little bit closer. Pioneers are taking the munitions point on the right side here, and Riflemen are also moving over to the right side here, so both sides spreading out pretty well. And the rear echelon troops now taking the left side fuel point here. However, the MG42 going to set up soon and start suppressing these men here, but going to get inside that house to last a little bit longer, but not going to be able to do too much inside there, as both sides are outranging each other at the moment. So now the rear echelon troops going to hold that sector for a little bit. We have Grenadiers now moving towards the left side victory point here. However, meeting these Riflemen. Riflemen just so good against these Grenadiers here. Going to have to back them off for a little while. Maybe bring over that MG42. The Riflemen over here taking the right side territory point. Now going after that right side fuel point. So far, 31 and 19 to 42 and 19. So a little bit more munitions for our Wehrmacht player. Now trying to put some tank traps for some excellent cover. However, the rear echelon troops got caught while doing that and lost a man in that squad to that MG42 in the Grenadier squad there. So now going to be taking that for the Wehrmacht. Sticking those rear echelon troops behind that house there to stop some of that damage for a little bit. Now 2 Grenadier squads over here. Some Riflemen now coming over to assist the situation. They are the 1-star veteran from that elite Rifleman training. Right side has been captured by the U.S. Forces, and not too many Wehrmacht troops over on the right side at the moment. Most of them on the left side dealing with the rear echelon troops in here. And these rear echelon troops serving their purpose very well, stopping the Wehrmacht over here on the left side for quite a significant amount of time, just for a few of those rear echelon troops, and loses that squad, unfortunately. And now Riflemen are moving towards the Wehrmacht base here, taking that territory point right out from under the Wehrmacht, and now they're going to have to stand there and retake that. However, these Riflemen in a little bit of trouble. These Pioneers chasing them with that short-range damage. And may lose another one of these before he's forced to retreat out of here. And now that he's stopped and the Pioneers stopping, they're going to do excellent damage against him and loses a couple more in that squad before the retreat. Grenadiers here now pushing on these Riflemen here. They're going to hold this munitions point as long as they can, and the left side victory point going to be belonging to the Wehrmacht. So now it's 1-1. However, the Wehrmacht lost 5 points because the U.S. Forces took the right side victory point a little bit earlier, and now going to be taking the center victory point. So going to turn this score around a little bit here. And the Riflemen in a little bit of trouble now. Only 3 men left in that squad. Going to get inside that house for a little bit of cover, but not going to last too long with just 3 men in that squad. Pioneers going at it again with these Riflemen, however, losing out on that fight pretty quickly, down to 1 man in that squad. Now the Riflemen focusing on that squad, but not going to get him. And Grenadiers now battling out with the Riflemen. Riflemen have much better cover, though, so we'll see how that works out for them. Grenadiers now going to be moving up towards the territory point over this way. Going to take that from the U.S. Forces. However, the Lieutenant is on the way to stop that. Now Grenadiers did force away the retreat on that Rifleman there with the help of that MG42, and now going to be taking that center victory point from the U.S. Forces as soon as he decides to get on in there with that MG42. However, this Grenadier squad going to be pushing up towards that territory point, going to take that from the U.S. Forces, going to try and at least neutralize it. I think that's the best he's going to be able to do here, as this Rifleman squad is on the way. And that Lieutenant did move around these Grenadiers here, and now going to be taking that fuel point out from under the Wehrmacht. They're going to have to react and come on over there. However, 2 Grenadier squads, more than enough to take care of that Lieutenant. Utility car now chasing down the Grenadiers here, and they're on the run. And the armor skirts are being upgraded on that M20, so he just He's definitely going to be keeping that around for a little while. Typically, you don't want to get those armor skirts if you think that you're not going to hold on to that scout car for a little while. And now Grenadiers going at it with this Lieutenant. Lieutenant now getting inside the house, however, a little bit too late. Only 2 men left in that squad. Going to have to retreat on out of there. Now the armor skirts up on that M20s for a little bit of extra armor. And got to be harassing these Grenadiers. However, don't want to get too close there, as they will Panzerfaust that M20. But I don't think he wants to risk the munitions just yet. U.S. forces now taking the munitions point and the center victory point at the same time. Lots of riflemen now moving over to the left side here. 3 riflemen for the U.S. forces and 3 Grenadiers for the Wehrmacht player. Wehrmacht scout car, the 222, forces away the retreat of that M20 there. And now the rifleman here launched an anti-tank rifle grenade at that 222, now very low to health, and the engine is damaged. And now the left side victory point here is susceptible to the U.S. forces, and the Grenadiers pushing up on this pinned rifleman here. Could get some easy kills on that, but decide to go over to the left side here to defend the 222, but a little bit too late, and they may be able to get a Panzerfaust on that M20, but nope, a little bit out of range there. And now taking the left side victory point for the U.S. forces. Going to have 3 victory points at the same time now. Going to take that Wehrmacht score down very quickly. And 486 to 488 now so far. Wehrmacht a slightly higher score, but the U.S. force is going to be turning that around shortly here, and decided not to take that left side victory point, as that MG42 is set up there, and that certainly wouldn't happen. M20 still harassing the line of Grenadiers here, just pulls it back anytime he starts to receive fire or those Grenadiers get a little bit too close. And the Lieutenant is on the way back to the left side. Now we have Riflemen taking the right side munitions point, and Pioneers trying to take that center victory point, but not sure how long that's going to last. And now the 222 going after the M20 again, and may actually take it out here. It's about half health, but nope, decides to back off in time before that Rifleman gets too close, although they are not a 1-star veteran, so they cannot use those rifle grenades. 50 cal is forcing the retreat on those Pioneers, but they did at least neutralize that victory point. And now 222 backing up again and keeping the range from those riflemen there. Took out a couple of them so far out of that squad. And going to force the retreat sooner or later here. Now, only 2 Grenadiers here going to be taking that left side fuel point back for the Wehrmacht, and the Wehrmacht a little bit behind in terms of resources. Until they get that, then they should just be about even. You know, 50 cal running away. The Grenadiers looks like they flanked around the side here. And now 2 Grenadier squads in the center are going to be taking that victory point, and another one going to be moving off towards the munitions point. Meanwhile, Riflemen all the way over here, just taking all the territory on the Wehrmacht side. And LMG here battling out with the M20. And here comes the scout car to get a little bit of extra damage. However, the Lieutenant is now up and going to do big damage to these Lieutenants. However, even the Lieutenant taking some pretty big damage, some lucky shots from that 222 there, taking out many of those men. And Pioneers will be taking that munitions point. And now Grenadiers battling out with the Riflemen here. Riflemen have no cover, so they're going to lose out on that. And now 2 scout cars out on the map against that M20. Did pop that smoke, and a very good time to pop smoke saved that M20 for the meantime. Riflemen now taking the left side munitions point, but under fire from an MG42, so they're going to get pinned sooner or later here. And now Grenadiers here going to be taking this territory point, but only 2 men in that, so as soon as a battle occurs, probably going to have to retreat those out of there. And scout car is getting lots of kills here. 4 kills on this scout car, but for some reason a 2-star veteran got lots of damage going. And accumulated experience from that damage. Grenadiers now pushing forward to the munitions point here. However, the Riflemen have superior cover and now have a flamethrower, so forcing the movement on those Grenadiers there. Grenadiers did take back some of this right side territory and will be pushing forward once again. Now the 50 cal set up here. I'm going to try and push that forward and get some shots in on that 222. M20 is still alive, has been repaired back up, and is good to go once again. And Grenadiers in trouble here, have to retreat those away. The Lieutenant and the Rifleman on the way here. However, the MG42 is still set up over this munitions point, covering the entire munitions point, so anything that comes through here is going to get peppered up by that MG42. And now it is the Lieutenant's turn to be fired at. However, the U.S. forces did successfully take that munitions point, and now the 222 chasing that M20. but may actually lose this M20, this 222 here to those riflemen, and loses it to just simply riflemen. A little bit too many shots on that 222 there, lost it. And now forcing the retreat on that lieutenant. The rifleman just now gained veterancy and used an anti-tank rifle grenade on that 222, and now it's in trouble. He may lose that as well. And Pioneers moving forward, going to try and take that territory point, but the captain going to stall that process. And now we have Grenadiers moving into the left side munitions point. On the right side here, we have Grenadiers taking the right side fuel point, and they definitely need that. If they can get that right side fuel point and hold on to it for a little while, they'll have a huge fuel advantage over the U.S. forces, and will be able to bring out superior armor. And these riflemen hiding behind pretty excellent cover here. However, the MG42 has been moved up just a little bit there, and now has them in sight and firing on them. Captain now was taking that middle victory point there, but two Grenadier squads forcing them to get behind some cover here outside of the range of that victory point. And now the Grenadiers here battling out with riflemen here, but not sure if they're going to win out on that. Only 2 men left in that squad. They do have that LMG, but just not enough in that close range battle. M20 still going strong here. Wehrmacht having a very hard time dealing with this M20. So far it's caused quite a bit of grief for the Wehrmacht, and now left side fuel point is under attack by the U.S. forces, and also on the right side as well. So both fuel points going neutral for the Wehrmacht now. And now taking the left side victory point and the left side munitions point at the same time. So far the U.S. forces right now are in for quite the resource bonus. MG42 backed off just a little bit, needs to push that just a little bit further and start capturing some of those in fire. 222 still battling out here. Got to watch out for that captain. Captain was moving forward and going to get to that 222. Just a couple bazooka rounds may actually be able to take it out, and one of them hits, takes it down to about half health there. Now we have a Stug 3 Ausführung G out on the field now. Very excellent at destroying troops. And that 50 cal there forces the retreat on those Grenadiers, and the Stug here firing on those riflemen, and should be firing on that 50 cal there as it's stationary, and would be able to get some excellent damage in on it. However, deciding to push forward here and just going to get peppered up by that 50 cal, but not a big deal to that Stug. And left side rifleman here being fired on by that 222, and on the right side here we have that M20 pushing forward and retreat, forcing the retreat on some of these units, and the rifleman did successfully take that right side fuel point. Now going to be taking that right side victory point. Now 2 Stugs out on the field for our Wehrmacht players, so just really massing up these Stugs. They're very, very cheap. As you can see, they're only 200 manpower and 75 fuel. And they do virtually nothing to armor. They're pretty lame against armor, but in terms of light vehicles and infantry, they're super good and pretty effective for their cost. Left side munitions point has been taken by the Wehrmacht. The left side victory point passed over, and now here comes the Grenadiers to take that, and also taking the territory point at the same time here with that MG42. Actually, it is a 50 cal that he picked up from the U.S. forces. And riflemen here under fire from that 222 and going to force the retreat on them, but they did capture that right side victory point, so that is success enough. And now the retreat. Now 2 Stugs moving over to the right side, but a little bit too late, and there is a 57 now set up over here, so don't really need these Stugs over there. Don't really want to risk getting peppered up by that 50 or 57 there. And rifleman now moving out, maybe trying to take this victory point here. Just needs to get right inside that circle and start taking that left side victory point now in Wehrmacht hands in just a couple of seconds. And the right side victory point also being taken by the Wehrmacht. So now turning the game around once again. Score so far, the U.S. forces down to 347 and the Wehrmacht at 479. So far the Wehrmacht doing quite well in terms of points. And here comes that pesky M20 utility car again, firing at these Grenadiers here. And we have reinforcements, the rifleman and a captain also moving forward as well. Going to be trying to take that victory point back. And these Stugs here just waiting for a good opportunity to act. And now we have Grenadiers moving over to the right side as well. Looks like everybody's pushing all their forces over to the right side. Most of the U.S. forces over on the right side, and the Wehrmacht now. So here comes some Grenadiers, some Pioneers as well. They have that mine detector, so very little firepower here. The flamethrower rifleman here forcing the movement on those Grenadiers and forces the retreat on them very quick. And the Pioneers firing at the riflemen, but down at 1 and firepower by 1 because of that because of that mine detector there. And now here's 2 Grenadiers firing on that squad again, retreats those Pioneers to reduce any kind of damage on them, and MG42 firing at that scout car there. He could have brought up those Stugs and actually taken out that scout car. Although these Stugs are very poor against armor, that scout car simply does not have the armor to deal with Stug 3s. And here comes E222 trying to force his way onto that 57. We gotta watch out. He might actually lose his own scout car to that artillery barrage and sort of lucked out there. Actually missed out on some of those barrages. Stugs getting hit by his own barrages there, and now pushing forward against the captain. And you gotta watch out for that 57. Could turn that 57 around and start firing on those Stugs very easily. 2 Grenadiers pushing forward and pushing the troops back and trying to take out that 57 for those Stugs and taking that territory point at the same time. Now the right side victory point being taken by the Wehrmacht over on the right side there. And we have that scout car there as well that needs repaired pretty bad. Stug now moving into the U.S. Forces base. The U.S. Forces don't have too much of an answer for this. The captain is pretty much the only thing they got right now to be able to deal with these Stugs. And 2 bazookas just simply isn't enough. He could have a lot of reaction time here, even if it will eventually destroy it, but at the slow pace, he'll be able to react very easily and just simply pull that out very casually. And now here comes the other Stug, both of them firing on the captain again, but missing. And now the U.S. forces in a little bit of trouble, all the way pushed back to the base. Now 3 Stugs out on the field here, massing up those easily producible Stugs. And they have a very, very short cooldown to bring in another Stug. So if you have the funds, you can actually mass out a whole bunch of Stugs very, very quickly. I think it's only maybe a minute between the cooldown of that Stug to call in another one, so as long as you have the resources to do so. Pack 40 is set up here for any additional U.S. Forces armor. The M20 here all the way back at the base, and that is a new M20. Now bringing these back a little bit, need to repair those up so he does not lose those. The Grenadiers have taken the right side field point and now going to be taking that territory point from the U.S. forces. And he's stuck here trying to destroy that 57 so that it cannot fall back into U.S. forces' hands. Here comes some Grenadiers to take this territory point. However, some riflemen are going to try and stop that. They're going to take this first and then move over here. Another 57 is out on the field and moving towards this Stug, but there's nothing in front of that 57 to defend it from these Grenadiers, so got to watch out for that. And Captain here pushing forward into the center, but the Grenadiers stop them in his tracks, as the Captain's not the greatest at fighting infantry, as they have 2 bazookas in the squad, which reduce their effectiveness in terms of infantry, but they're very, very good, of course, against armored vehicles with those 2 bazookas. But you can't put 2 bazookas on any U.S. forces infantry anyway. I'd say the best thing about the Captain is the on me move. It's actually super good. You can send some troops forward and then have them get suppressed by an MG and then actually use that on me button and they will run back to the Captain. It's actually super good, but you never see anybody using it. And the territory point here closest to the U.S. forces base has been taken by the Wehrmacht, now going to be re-neutralized by the U.S. forces here, but the MG42 is suppressing this troop. Only 1 man left and unable to take that. On the left side here, we have some riflemen here going to take the left side to victory point, but there is a 50 cal here. It's just going to suppress them and pin them again. So the U.S. forces in a little bit of trouble here and unable to take any territory back, as the Wehrmacht has a pretty good setup here. MG42 to stop any infantry from taking this, so he needs to push forward and take out that MG. However, the pack there makes that a problem for that M20. 3 Stugs in the field still, and repairing this one up. And Aimstrong, our U.S. Forces player, has surrendered the game as he simply lost way too much territory, and those Stugs came out very, very fast against him. He didn't really prepare for that, didn't have the 57s out to deal with that. And the 222 is not so successful for our Wehrmacht player, although this one did fare pretty well. As a 2-star veteran, those Stugs simply forced the retreat on all kinds of infantry and did so well and took out quite a bit of them. 9 kills here, 2 kills there, and 6 kills there. So not too many, but they also weren't out for that long. And you also got to remember that they do pretty good damage to infantry as well. So even if they don't have the kills, they did pretty good damage, just like this 222 here. So the U.S. forces just got a little bit outplayed this game, but a very, very nice game indeed. And I hope you guys enjoyed the replay, and I will see you guys next time.